Okay, let me know if I'm audible. Is the voice clear? Am I audible? You can just mention it in the chat window and then we'll start. Okay, great. Let's start now. So, what we are going to discuss today, we started with the functional component yesterday, and we did start with something that is use effect, use state kind of concepts, and then uh, like I said, towards the end we discussed about use effect as a hook. So we'll plan to see the usage of use effect and how does it work in case of like different states. Okay. Then we'll also plan to use today something which is like getting data from the text boxes. Okay. So if at all there are data or there's a data which is to be collected from the text boxes, how do you collect data from text boxes? That part we are going to want to see. And then the next part would be seeing something which is like navigation, if time permits. Okay, so we'll be seeing use effect today. I mean, continuation of use effect. So continue use effect. Then the next thing we'll be discussing today, second part, that is accepting input from user. Then the next thing is third, something which is navigation. So we'll be using, for navigation purpose, we'll be using one of the library, React Router DOM. Okay. So this is the library that we'll be using, React Router DOM. And then we'll see how the navigation basically works in case of React. So we'll be navigating from A component to B, B to C, C to D, and then back to the first component. So how navigation basically happens in React, that is our another thing that we'll be talking about. Okay, so here we go now. So let's start with the use effect again, and we'll be opening the project which we did work with. Okay, so I'll be let's open live demos here. Let's have this day 5 content. Okay, I'll be copying this content, day 5 content. So maybe I'll just try to prepare. Okay, so day 6, a version maintain, and we'll be adding a demo. Since it's going to be a weed based demo, so it's just going to be demo folder. And under that, let's add the rest of the contents. Okay, and let's open this in the command prompt. Let's open this with VS Code first, and then let's try to install all the packages using npm install. Okay, so while the packages are getting installed, let us plan to focus on a few of the sample pages here. Okay, so let's try to understand that use effect concept. Okay, so I'll be adding a few state variables, and let us try to understand when certain number of state variables basically change. So what is the impact that we have in case of UI is what I want you to understand. So I'm just going to add one page here. Let's say demo something demo effect dot JSX as in the component. And here we'll be focusing on functional component today. So let's add now FFC. I'm using simple React snippets. Okay, so there is an extension I have added called a simple React snippets like this. So if you go to VS Code and if you're looking for intelligence like this, which I'm getting by the way, like if I start coding and if I hit tab, I end up getting some sort of code, like for example, demo effect. So all of these intelligence and some shortcuts that you see, these things you can also have in VS Code when you actually install under the extensions, when you install something like React, okay, simple React snippets. So there's a snippet available called simple React snippet, which is by a developer or like a contributor called Burke Holland. So you can very well install these extensions and you will get these shortcuts that you can see. You can see the shortcuts over here. So CC is used for creating a class component, or for that matter, FFC is used for creating a functional component. So one can actually install this quickly. It's a few kilobyte installation, and then that will eventually give you all the shortcuts so that you can generate the code quickly. Okay. So let us focus on this component now, demo effect. And what is a goal that I have? I just want to explain you something that is having multiple number of states and then manipulating multiple number of contents. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have deliberately three different state variables. Okay, so we'll use state. So use state. Let us plan to put a default value over here. So let's put here one value specifically for um, something like this. Let's say name and set name. These are the methods. Okay. Let's have an initial value as an ABC. Close this. There you go. Just like name and set name is there, I'll also have one more variable. Let's have name, let's have address. I'm deliberately putting it, I mean not together, but then in different state variables deliberately because I want to explain you something which is like what happens when only one thing changes, what happens when both the things changes, what happens when either of the things changes basically. So let's go and try to add here address. Let's add address as in Pune. So these are the two things that we have right now. Okay. And what's the agenda? Agenda is we can just have the initial values put up first of all on the screen. Let's have H1. Let's put name. And then we can just put a value which is name itself. Then let's hold H1. Let's put address. Okay. Let's put address. And let's put here curly bracket address. So I'm just going to go and showcase the name and address as of now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm planning to basically change the name and change the address. So I'll have two buttons added over here. One is a button called change name, which will just set the name to XYZ. Another one is change address, which will be changing address to Mumbai. And then I'll also have one more button over here, which is okay, one more button over here. And then I'll be putting something like change both, which means in a one click, I'll be changing both name and address. So change both name and address. I'm deliberately showing you this demonstration so that you can understand what basically is the impact that we have in case of rendering and use effect. Okay. So on click, one more time, I'll be adding some piece of code. So execute this lambda function, and under that, I'll be actually calling set name, some code, and set address. So deliberately, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add over here something like, let's say, suppose Mahesh, and I'll be setting a value like, let's say, Chennai. Now take an example. So what I have here, on a first button click, I'll be changing ABC to XYZ. On a second button click, I'll be changing Pune to Mumbai. And on the third button click, I will be changing name and address both, okay, at once on a single button click. And now what I'm interested in is I'm interested in basically writing a piece of code which is use effect code. Okay, not interested in something which is called as writing code which is like mm, uh, the first time component and second time component and all that. I'm just focusing on when the name changes, address changes, what happens behind the scene. Now focus here. I'll end up writing some piece of code like this. Let's write down constant. Maybe I would say something which is called as maybe handle name click or name change. Okay, this is the code. Handle name change. So sorry, we already have written code, so this is not required. I rather wanted use effect here. Use effect, use effect called. And now, like I said, use effect called because, okay, name or address change. So I'm interested in only name change initially. And then I'll be having this piece of code. So what is it that I'm trying to do? I'm trying to write down some piece of code here that execute this piece of code only and only when the name change happens. Copy this, paste it. I'm writing another piece of use effect here, and I will say use effect piece of code called because address changed. Okay, and here I will put in a dependency that please monitor address. This means what exactly you are asking React to monitor. So you are asking React, that is okay, monitor name. You are asking React, please monitor address. And whenever these things changes, when name changes, this code executes. When the address changes, this code executes. Now hold on. I'll also have one more thing, okay, added over here. And this is something little bit of different than what you saw earlier. This will execute only on name. This will execute only on address. This will execute when name or address changes. Okay, either of the things. And now please have a look when what gets called. Okay, when what gets called. Let's write it this way. Let us try to use demo effect in the what you call main JSX. So under main JSX, I'll be calling this demo effect. Let us get rid of this piece of code. So only demo effect is what I'll be calling right now. Okay, have a look here. Enter. Let's see what happens on the browser. Now, since the npm installation is done, I'll run the application. I'll say wait serve. This will compile, create a package, and then at the end of the day, it will start a server on this port number. So what do I have here is this UI right now. Okay, this just helps you. Now let's press F12 just to show you the content. Okay. First time, obviously, everything changed. That is what I said. Ki in case of functional component, even the first time value set is also called as updations. That is the reason the code got executed. So anyway, you can see it here now. So we just have a console here. Have a look. I have a ABC. I have a Pune. And on a button click, I'm changing name ABC to XYZ. See what code executes here. Click. Now you can see here two lines written basically. The first line written is use effect called because what changed? Name changed. So the first use effect is what is executed, which means React is basically monitoring the what you call it as a data change. It is monitoring the states change. There are two state variables, name and address. So when it is monitoring name state variable and when the name state variable basically changes, what happens is it triggers a kind of a call and prints this message. But since the name changes and there is another use effect which is for name or address, that also executes if you see. So a code line number 10 executes and code line number 20 also executes. One prints because name changed, other one prints just because name or address changed. And now you can see it here. The actual code is 10 and 20 lines. So 10th line is this piece of code and 20th line is this piece of code. So you need to think twice when you actually end up adding use effect, then what kind of a code snippets get called. This is only for name. Okay. Now let me close this and let me click on change address. Okay. I'll be changing address now. Let me refresh here, clean here and change the address now. So let's only change the address. Click. Again, what you see, a use effect gets called when the address change as is. And just because name or address, either of the things changes, right now only address change. So what gets printed is use effect called because name or address changed. Simple. Now clean this, refresh it, try clicking on both, which means change the name and change the address both and see what happens now. You can see all three functions basically execute. This is because name changed, this because address changed, and in this case, name and address both changed. So what you can see, this function is also going to get called. Okay, so what you see is the functions basically execute when certain things changes. So somebody is monitoring, React is monitoring when the state change happens. And whenever state change happens, if there is some sort of side effect that we have added code as, this is called side effect by the way. So when the state changes, its side effect is execute this piece of code. So eventually what happens is we can see the code getting executed accordingly. So we have here something which is use effect code. Uh, I believe I'm clear with this. Is it? Is this clear so far? Okay, great. So now that the use effect code is clear, let us proceed further. Now, what I want to do is, so far it is always going to be, or always has been, something like we always clicked on a button and changed the values via code. Okay, we never accepted the data from the user. And in case of browser side, to accept the data from the user, which is a plain text, there is nothing better than having input boxes in picture. So what is it that I'm trying to do now? I'm going to accept literally these two things, name and address from the user. I'm going to access or accept name and address from the user. And for that, of course, I need to have something that is some sort of UI in place. So here is what I'm going to go and do. Let me close this demo effect code. Let me add in here another, what you call it as, maybe a component. And let us say demo inputs. Now I'll just try to maintain consistency in terms of naming, because later on you should be able to see what kind of a demo is used for what purpose. Now we'll have here again function return. Let's call this as demo input or demo inputs. Under that, let's add up some piece of code here. And then the next thing is, let's try to have some sort of UI generated. Okay. So in here, I'm interested in writing some piece of code like this. Let's say enter H1. Let's write down some piece of code. Let's say H2 name. After that, I'll have input box input type is equal to text and so and so. A placeholder will do. Okay. Then there can be HR, a ruler, and same thing I would repeat. In between this demo input and so on, I'll also have HR added, a ruler. This is going to have simple sweet UI, nothing fancy. And here I'll be accepting address from the user. Type of is text, enter your name, enter your address. Okay. And unlike JavaScript, had it been a JavaScript and HTML, I would have added ID as an attribute. So we are not interested basically using ID as an attribute. In case of React, in case we need to identify the content, okay, programmatically, what you can do is we can actually go ahead and use something like IDs, name, literally doesn't matter. Because anyway, we are not going to go and use document.getElement by ID. Why is that? Reason is very simple. Document.getElement by ID will always give you reference from the DOM. And one fact that you know for sure, that in React, we do not work with main DOM. We do work with something which is called virtual DOM. And that's the reason document.getElement by ID and so and so, even if it is possible here, we don't use it directly because it's like going against the rules of React. So we don't want to basically breach the what you call barriers and limitations of React. So eventually what happens is we are interested in maintaining that, respecting that limitation and then focusing on how React wants us to accept the data and make the changes in state. So how do we do this? Let's try to understand that now. So we already have here something that is name and address input boxes. Let's plan to collect the data first. Okay. To collect the data, let us hold here. It's going to be, let's say, employee's name, employee's address. I'm not interested in having name and address as in two different fields now. Let us have employee's data. Okay. So let's say I'll have here constant. I'll hold emp and set emp. Let's use state. And then employee basically can have name and address. So the initial value of employee is basically holding a state which is internally an object. And what is there in this object? See, emp's default value is this object. And this object has a key name, empty value, initially address, and then empty value. And right now, use state, we'll have to import. Let's import. So all done. So emp dot name will give us the name. Emp dot address will give us the address. So right now, we are interested in showcasing the employees data into the UI. So let us do one thing. Binding is very important. Let us put here value should be coming from emp dot name. And here I would mention that the value must come from emp dot address. But then both values are empty initially. So definitely nothing. And then what I want you to see is if I click on a button, okay, button. Maybe I'll just say click me or print the value of employee. So print data on console. So whenever somebody clicks on a button, okay, what I want to do is I would like to execute some piece of code. Maybe let us say print. Why, why can't we just go and say print? Let's say print here. Let's use camel casing. And since it's going to be print only, so I would say print data. Here we go. Print data. P small, data D capital. Just a same naming convention as that of useState I'll be using. And here you go. You can write constant and then print data. And what exactly we are planning to do is, let us plan to print now employees details, okay, as an object. So here we would simply go and say console.log, and I'll just try to print here emp. In case you are interested in, printing the isolated contents, you can very well go and write down a code like this. You may say, okay, print name is employee's name, address is employee's address. So we'll be printing employee's name and address. This is a syntax which is template literal syntax in case of ECMAScript 6. So since 2015, we could use this syntax wherein dollar and curly bracket basically presents the kind of what you call placeholders. So placeholders will be showing the content of a name and address in this case. Now pay attention. Here I go and try to showcase this demo inputs somewhere in here in the main JSX. Let's show it here. Main JSX. Let's use it here. Comment the demo effect. Let's see the UI. Okay. Hold on now. Here you go. So what you see is there is a name, there is a enter your name kind of a content as you can see. And there is also something called as address and enter your address kind of a content. And now you saw that when I tried to run this application initially, you can see some sort of warning comes up over a console. Have a look here. And the warning is you provided a value property in one of the form field that is input without writing on change handler. So just like for a button, we could write on click. Here, what is expected is for a text box, for an input box, what is expected is you should hold something that is, or you should write on change kind of a function is what is expected. Now, let's try to understand what this thing means. Here we go. The default values that you see in here are empty. Okay. Maybe if I just try to change the values out here, let's say address equal to name equal to maybe ABC. And what if a default value is Pune? Have a look up. So what happens out here is there is a ABC here written and then there is a Pune over here written. Now the thing is, I'm not interested in something like writing ABC only. So can I just go ahead and change the value of ABC? Pay attention. A surprising thing comes up now. What if I type here over here K? See, I am typing, okay? I am typing right now. So if I start typing anything over here, you can see there is you can see it is flickering as you can clearly see here. The zigzag line that you see, it is flickering. You can see it here. See, when I start typing, you can see this is flickering line, which means it is not allowing me to eventually write anything. Can I put backspace? Let me put backspace here. If I put backspace, nothing happening. The ABC value is shown as it is. There is no change which is happening in my name. Maybe over here, when I try to go and try to select this and put a backspace, nothing happens over here. Why is that? You need to understand few facts now. Have a look. And the fact, I mean, if I click on this button, definitely it will show me name is ABC, address is Pune. That's it. So no matter what I type over here, there is nothing which is getting typed. And if I click every other time, I see ABC and Pune. The concern question is why it is not allowing me to type anything in the boxes. What is happening behind the scene? Now you need to understand who is a true source of data. Okay. What did you mention over here? See, one more important point to understand. If I wouldn't have written something like this, suppose for a value, if I would not have mentioned something like this, see what happens, huh? If I remove this emp name, removed. Now see what happens here. Now, if I refresh, there is nothing in the name. Have our attention. I can type anything I want over here. If I did not bind emp.name with the text boxes, you can see I can type anything in that case. So what changes when I say value equal to emp.name? When you do a code like this, value equal to emp.name, it means in React, you are trying to convey that who is a true source of data, who is a true source of data for an attribute called as value. Who is a true source who is a true source over here for value? So value's value will come from emp.name. So no matter what you type in the box, it won't let you type. It will keep the value from emp.name itself. Then the question comes up, what will happen if at all I do something like this? Pay attention. Huh? What will happen if I do something like this? If I create another button here, and maybe I'll say change name. Pay attention. Change name. And on a button click, on click, I will write down some piece of code and let's call this as change name. Okay. Only name I wish to change. Constant change name over here. And you know how name change happens? Name alone cannot be changed because it's not an isolated state. Name belongs to EMP. So in order to re-render the UI, one must reset the value of EMP. So whatever EMP is holding this object, there must be a new object which EMP must be holding. But I just wanted to change name's value, not addresses value. That's the reason what did we do here? We made a copy of EMP and in that copy, we change name XYZ. So it's going to be a fresh new copy with the XYZ as a name instead of ABC. Address will remain as Pune as it is. And then I'm calling set EMP function, which will simply reset the value of a state. Resetting a state will re-render the UI. That's a fact that you already know. Now let me show you what happens. What did I say just now? I said if I don't write something like this, it means I can change the text anytime. But the time I say value equal to emp.name, it means I have said strictly that the value of this input box will come from emp.name only. And if that's the case, I type anything in the text box, nothing happens because who is a true source of data for this value is emp name. Then the concern is what will happen if I click on a button called change name and change the name property to XYZ. Name property changes, emp name changes, means value changes. So who is the true source of data for value? emp.name means when the name changes, value changes. Only if you type something nothing happens. The reason is very simple. The source of data matters over here, what you have mentioned. Now pay attention. Now I'll refresh this. Refresh this. There is some piece of code. What did I do? Element tag HR. Okay, so there is a problem in HR. HR slash HR slash and HR slash. I believe there is no problem. There should not be. Refresh. Okay. So I guess there is some issue. Uncaught error in tag must either have a children. Okay. Where did we not close HR? There's a HR here. There is a HR here. All looks good. Yeah. Did we miss any input tag anywhere? There's a button here. There is on click and change name here. Looks okay to me. Okay. Let's see. So what is the change we did? Okay. We have written some piece of code like this. Let's see. Refresh. Change name is not defined, so okay, change name is there now, constant and so and so. What's the issue that we have? We made a copy of a EMP, name is equal to XYZ, set EMP is what is called, set EMP is called. All looks good. Did we miss anything in here? Okay, let's go ahead and try to write HR slash. Let's see if the self close helps. This was the only change which we did. I believe there is no issue now. Ah, something must have gone wrong. Either maybe the empty space may have created a problem. Now coming back to the discussion. What did I say here? Text box 1, your value is coming from EMP name. Text box 2, your value is coming from address, as you can see it here. Now, what will happen if I see, if, like I said, if I type here, nothing happens. But then if I click on this button, the name changes, the text box should change. Have a look. Can you see ABC change to XYZ? Since you said text box's source is emp.name, so change the name, UI will automatically change. Now the next point is in here, what happens is if on a button click, I can change the name like this. My question is, why can't I just keep on changing this EMP value, EMP name value, whenever somebody keeps on typing something in the boxes? So let user type something over here and give us a new value then. And that's one reason what developers would need is this. That was the reason there was a error or rather warning message that you are missing on change. So in case you are looking for data from the boxes, write on change method. Let us write down over here on text change. Okay, on text change. And deliberately what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a name over here, name equal to name, which means whose value are we showing in this input box is name's value, is what I would say. So whose value we are trying to show is name's value. Hold on. Here also I'll mention name equal to, and I would say address. Whose value are we going to go and show? Address's value. And then further, what I am going to go and do is on change equal to, I will call same function on text change. So whether somebody types something in the box, this box or address box, what will happen is we'll be calling this function called as on text change. This function is yet to be written. We are yet to write down. And what have we learned so far? We have learned one thing for sure, that we have mentioned to the input box that you should get your value from EMP name. I conveyed here to this input box, go get a value from EMP address. So one true source of data is this. So whenever name changes, the UI changes, name address changes, this UI changes. Now hold on. And that's what we did over here. So based on this learning, I really want to do some changes like this in name and address. But I don't want a hard-coded XYZ or PQR or Pune or Chennai or Mumbai. What I'm interested in is this data must come from text boxes. And that's the reason I have written on change, on text change kind of a methods. So the thing is, I would end up writing constant on text change. And one of the beautiful thing that we have, how do I know in this particular text box or in this method? See, whenever this text changes, this method we are calling right now. So the question comes up, how will this on text change method logic know something like what sort of text box changed just now? How do you know that? Which text box basically changed? Somebody typed something in the text box. How do I know this? So for that purpose, there is one more theory. What you need to do is, this is something which is there since almost like, 20 years back, 20, 25 years back. So there is a one way that whenever some sort of default event happens with respect to some sort of text box or for that matter, any kind of a UI control. So whenever you try to handle in JavaScript that function, JavaScript will actually receive something which is called as event arguments. So when a button click happens, although we did not accept this, okay. So there is a print data function we called. We can always accept some inputs over here, and normally we end up getting something called as event arguments. So every time something happens and some function gets called, some event happens on click, on right click, on left click, on maybe text box change, on some selection of a combo box. So whenever some sort of event happens, you will always find out in that event related function called as event handler, you can always expect one parameter, that is event argument. And with the event argument, you get all the data that you normally need. Something like who clicked, where clicked, what happened, what are the coordinates where when a user clicked or that event happened. All those details are typically conveyed to you. So right now I am more interested in knowing that this particular function is called for what reason. Is this function called because somebody typed something in the name box or somebody typed in the address box? Because in both the cases we are calling same function. And now what you do is you go ahead and accept some parameters over here. I would write down args, some arguments you can expect over here. And just to show you the arguments, let me do one thing. Let me put here debugger, okay? Let me put debugger. And one of the beautiful thing you will see now, When we run the code, see, it was not allowing me to type something in the text boxes. Observe now. Now, if I refresh this, there is already ABC, there is already Pune. Okay. Now, instead of ABC, I'll be using ABCD. Okay, I'll be using ABCD. Have a look now. D. Can you see in the left hand side a gray panel? What you see is there is a gray window which shows ABCD. Means what? It allowed me to change, but I am not doing anything in that on text change. Okay. If I continue, see what happens. If I continue, the old value is retained, that is ABC. Okay. Old value is written as ABC. Because when will this change? When the name value changes. And as of now, when you type something, for a time being, the accepted value is collected here. But the problem is, here you are not setting that name value to a ABCD, newer value. So the state value is still ABC. If I continue as is, this changes to ABC. And that's the reason, even if I don't debug right now, and even if I start typing, you will find out it is allowing me to type, but it is resetting that value to the older state value as it is. It is, it is, as a developer, it is our concern, something like we should accept this value as ABCD and write a set name method over here or set EMP method over here or call set EMP over here. Question is, how do I know that name changed? Because for a name, this function is getting called, and even for Pune and Pune 1, suppose the same method is getting called. So how do I know what basically user typed? Did user change the name or did user change the address? Now the parameter lies over here. Look at the arguments here. And if you look at the arguments, go to console and check args dot. Look at the options that you have. Args dot target. This will give you all details about input control, which means what kind of input control is that? You will get to know that. That's exactly what we wanted. We wanted to know whether name change has happened or address change has happened. You can very well go and try to see the name property I deliberately had given address, and I had deliberately given name equal to name. So now I would know what basically changed. So args.target.name will tell me what changed. What changed? Address. To what value did it change? Go ahead and check dot value. And the value is Pune 1, which means there is some way that I can get to know what did user type in the boxes. So now that I know that user has changed the address and user has actually changed it to Pune 1, now once we have this args.target.value and once we know it's an address, what can be done is one can very well go and try to change the state value. Question is, how do I change the state value? How would I know and how do I change the state value? You know, state is what? State is EMP right now. Okay. So EMP is basically set up with name and name ABC address Pune. What is changing EMP means? Changing EMP means resetting this value. But then if I only change Pune to Pune 1, that won't help because I also want to retain name equal to ABC. Means I have to maintain a copy of this. Then the question comes up, how do I go and change the value of only address? Because programmatically I am getting to know something like address changed, and that is through runtime. One of the beautiful thing about this is JSON object, by the way, JavaScript object. So you can also have EMP, just like you say EMP.name, and you can very well assign a newer value. In general, I'm saying in general JavaScript object. You also have one option. You can do something like this. Under square bracket, you can say name and double quote this and equal to a newer value like suppose xyz. This will also work. So my concern is when the name changes, I will write something like this. When the address changes, I would write something like this. But hold on, you are already knowing this. You already get to know this. args.target.name will tell me address change. So here I can always say what changed is this. What changed is address. To what value did it change is args.target.value. And this is how we will be changing the employee details now. So first of all, we'll make a copy of employee. Okay. So it will be copy of employee. So copy of employee, I will be changing the name, that is either name or something which is, args.target.name, that is this guy, either address or either name. And what is it that we will be setting it to? We'll be setting it to args.target.value, Pune 1 or ABCD, whatever comes up. And this copy of EMP is what we'll be setting up later to EMP via set EMP. Now pay attention. What do I mean by this? Have a look. I'll be going to code here and I will be creating a copy of a EMP. Make a copy of a EMP. And then what you do is you may say under that copy of EMP, which basically holds exactly same data like this, literally a replica is made. And then from that replica, I would like to change args.target.name means what? This guy. What is this? Sometimes address, sometimes name. So sometimes address and sometimes name value I want to set it to whatever I'm getting as a value over here. And then this copy of EMP is what I'm going to want to set one more time so that a new UI can be created automatically. And now pay attention. If at all we do this, clean here, refresh here, initial value is this. ABCD, if I say, have a look. When I say ABCD over here, have a look. You have here, okay, copy maintain, copy of EMP. What's in there? There is a name, there is a ABC. What I'm supposed to change? So how do I know what changed? Name changed. How do I know that? Args dot target dot name. Args dot target dot name. You get to know what changed. Name changed. Okay. What's the latest value that we have? The value which basically got changed is here. I guess it's already at the top, or we can just expand this. Here we go. This way. So okay, I guess the value is upside already. Here it is. The value which basically changed is to ABCD. So you already have a knowledge what changed and what value did it change to. So you are going to go and say from the copy of EMP, I am changing the name value to a newer value over here, ABCD. See to it now. So copy of EMP actually has got address as in Pune, name as in ABCD. Because it was ABC, now it is ABCD as you can see here. And this is the new EMP that I would like to set it to, the EMP state. Now when you do so, you can see ABCD is the value that is there. And in similar manner, suppose if I change Pune to Pune 1, see here, I make a copy of EMP which is holding ABCD and Pune now. Make a copy. You already got to know that its address is what is changed and what is the value that is it changed to Pune 1. Make change only in copy of EMP. Look at the copy of EMP now. Copy of EMP has a name ABCD, has an address Pune 1. And now set it to EMP, continue. You can see the value is basically set. This is how we will be changing the values now. So if I refresh the code, old value is ABCD and Pune. Make the change over here. Remove this. Let's put Mahesh. Let's put Chennai. So we have two different values set up right now. So it is allowed. And now if I put here F12 and print data on the console, you can see name is Mahesh and address is Chennai. So you have in a code a full data from the text boxes, which basically this data you can use for maybe for checking the data, for performing some validations. You can also use it specifically for sending this data to server side whenever need comes up. So choices are all up to you, like what to do with this particular data. So this is how you and me, we will be eventually collecting the data from the user. Now, let's say, suppose in the same code, what if I have another state added? What if I have another state added? And that is employees and set employees. And the initial value, I will just put blank, nothing else. The initial value of employees collection is blank. So there is a EMP and set EMP. There is EMPS collection and set the collection, that is set EMPS. And what's the initial value of collection? Empty. I may have here name empty. I may have address empty. Okay, what I'm trying to do here, whenever user types something in the text boxes, I will anyway be able to collect the data over here. Okay, and then what I want to do is under this EMPS, I would like to keep on adding the data whenever somebody clicks on a button. Now see here, print data, that is the function I had written. Okay, print data. Instead of that, now I will be doing something different. Print data is just one function for you and me. Now let's do one thing. Let us write down one more code over here. So instead of print data, okay, instead of print data over here, let me select, okay, instead of print data, I will call it as add data, not on the console, add data. And instead of calling it as a print data, let me call it as add data. Add data to what? A collection. Which collection? I already have an empty collection over here. And I would like to populate something in this array. I would like to populate something in this employees array. And how do I do that? Write a code over here like this. You can comment this because we are not using this anymore. And now I am interested in writing this piece of code. Pay attention now, guys here. So what did we do? We printed emp.name and emp.address, which means we already have some data in employees or employee. Whenever somebody clicks on add data, what is it that I'm interested in? Make a copy of employees. Make a copy of employees. Here we make a copy. Set emps. Sorry. Make a copy of employees. So I'm just interested in writing piece of code like this. Have a look. Something like var copy emps. So employees copy is what I make. Okay. Then I would say something which is called as var copy of emp. Copy of emp. So there is employees copy and there is emp copy, single object copy and collection copy. What do I do with this now? Copy of emps. This copy, I will be adding one more employee into it. That is this copy of emp. Okay, copy added. Then what I want to do is after adding a copy, I would like to call here set emps, which means I'm setting a collection now. So a new collection is what is created, which is copy of emps. So what do I see here? Employees copy is made, EMP's copy is made, copy of EMPs, a new copy, a new employee is added, and then what we are trying to do is set EMPs, which means we are resetting the collection so that we can see another UI, which is collection UI. And afterwards, after adding all employees detail, I am interested in making the text boxes blank again. And you know what? Text boxes can only be made blank once we change the value of a name and address for an employee, because you know that text boxes value are coming from emp.name and emp.address. Make them blank, the UI will be blank automatically. So I am doing few things here. We are basically making a copy of employees, copy of emp, pushing a copy of employee into copy of employees, then set employees and set employee to blank, create a new collection, and then so-called reset the text boxes UI value. I may go and write down console.log all EMPs, doesn't matter. Now I'm more interested in showcasing all the employees. I do not have anything initially in the employees. I don't have anything in the initial stages in the employees collection. Still, what I would do is this. After these text boxes, let me add one HR again. Okay. After this thing, let's add a HR and let's have employees list added. And right now, I am interested in UL and LI. And what's the code we used other day? I have employees collection iterated emps.map. Let us use over here something like emp. Let us hold over here employee has a name, considering that employee name is unique, or maybe whatever is the index of employee collection, we can just hold it here. Have a li constructed. Let us have everything clubbed here. Return this UI, which is a statement that is needed. Return this UI. Why is that? Okay, I guess no needed. There you go. See here now. So under the UL, li will be created every other time. Every time I'll be having the a number from the array, and then in here I'll have name, employee's name to be shown, and employee's address. But see, what I'm iterating is emps, and the problem is maybe I'll just say emp1 here just to avoid the confusion. Um, employee. Okay, one employee, 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 and employee. Have a look now. So every other time I'll be using the index for unique key. And then every time we iterate, I'm interested in showing employee's name and employee's address over here. So what will happen initially, as you know, there is nothing in this array. There is nothing in this array. So what will eventually happen is there is nothing which is going to get added in this employees list below. Okay. But whenever we keep on pushing the data, every time we click on a button after adding text boxes data, we are going to go and push something into this employees, okay, and we'll be cleaning the text boxes later. Have a look now. This is the content. Refresh. Okay. You can just try to reduce the size. Let's add first data. Let's add Mahesh. Let's add Pune here. And now it is allowing me to add something. Let's say add data. See here what happens. You can see name Mahesh and address Pune is added because in collection we have just added something new. Moreover, text boxes are empty because I have said reset the EMP name and EMP address to empty. So text boxes are all empty now. Add another data now. Let's add something like Ganesh and Chennai. Add this data. You can see Ganesh and Chennai added over here. Add some more data. Let's add Chetan. Let's add Pune and click over here. And you can see the data is getting added into the list one by one by one. Okay, this becomes super easy whenever you need to collect the data from the user, create, I mean, showcase the data as well. It can be something like, let's say, add a passengers to the what you call railway ticket booking system. Keep on adding passengers as long as you want. Accept all the data, and then maybe this entire collection that we have, we can push it in a JSON format to the server side whenever need comes up as a batch update or batch add. Right? Are we are getting this? Is this easy to understand? Yes. I'm sure this sounds easy, seems easy as of now. I hope everybody is getting this. If there's a concern question, please feel free to put it in the chat window. Your continuous feedback is important so that I'll understand that you are understanding it. Okay. So awaiting for your revert. Okay. Sadhana said she understands. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Ask questions. If there's a concern, let me know so that I can help you understand this. It's easy. Okay. Okay. I doubt how many of you are there really. The concurrent viewers are there, but how many of you are really listening to this online session? Okay. React in the chat window if at all you can. Okay, Abhijit. Okay. Okay. No questions. Okay, great. So as long as you are getting it, then I'm happy. Now let's continue and plan to understand further things. So in the agenda, yeah, thank you. So in the agenda, what do you see? We discussed about something which is like continue effect, continue the use effect. We try to understand. Yeah. Yes, Sushant, we are using spread operator. We try to understand accepting inputs from the user. So we did binding with respect to the input controls. And then there is a reason. The question from Om is something like, do we need to copy object every other time when we update the data? I'll tell you the reason why people do this. Okay. If at all, let's say, see, set EMPS, changing the data in case of employees collection. When do you say collection changed? When do you say collection changed? You say collection changed whenever there is a new set of collection value comes up. If there is a string called as name, which has a Mahesh, unless until there is a new value set up instead of Mahesh, something different than Mahesh, till that time I won't say the value changed. Here it's a collection. Unless until I assign a new collection, I'm saying completely fresh new collection. It is never ever called as state change. I have to reset. I have to assign a complete new collection. And even if there are values from the older collection plus one, still a new collection needs to be designed and defined. Otherwise, it will never be called as a state change. And that's the reason, we made a copy of employees collection. Why did I make a copy of employee two? Because what happens when you actually add, it's a kind of reference type, right? So when I added this EMP, in here. Okay, push and copy of EMP. Instead of making copy of EMP, if I would have added EMP, what happens when that EMP is bound with the text boxes, and if I make the text boxes blank, the EMP also changes accordingly. Means initially you may see data is added, but as image as soon as I change the text boxes values to blank, the collection value for that particular object also becomes blank. And that's the reason it's always better than not having any references maintained for the previous data. Make a copy, make the changes, reset the state and continue. Okay. So this is something which is like, we don't want to continue holding any references to the previous data. So even by mistake, we should not hold it. So it's always better. And anyway, the data is going to get collected. When you are no longer in need of a data in memory, that data will anyway be collected later on. Although it's a delayed kind of a cleaning, it will definitely be cleaned off. So we don't have to worry about it, right? So yeah, Sushant's question was, are we using spread operator in React? So yes, we are using spread operator, correct. So now coming back to the discussion. Now you know how do we collect the data from input boxes. So this was just one part. So we studied about use effect. We also studied about something like accepting data from the user. Now let us focus on simple navigation. So far, what did we do? We always and always tried to focus on one component at a time, which means everything that we have learned in React so far since last 2 3 days, you will notice that what we have done is we always have worked with one component at a time, which means every other time we create a component, we make some changes, we write some piece of code, and we only and only showcase that component only. There is nothing which is called as navigation from one component to another component. That is not happening so far. So the question is, can we put a navigation in place? So you must recall now the first day demonstration, rather first day or second day demonstration, when we discussed about single page application versus multi-page application. And in a single page application, say React is single page application. So eventually what happens, so far what we have learned is each component producing a different UI. And we saw some basic concepts with respect to components. Now the concern is, I am not interested in showcasing something which is called as one component at a time. I am interested in showing one component and then navigating to another, then navigating to another based on button click or so and so. So how can we have what you call the look and feel, the navigation in place? One of the beautiful thing is there, that is again React Router DOM. That's the library that we'll be using. That's the package that we'll be using. Like I said it earlier, had it been Angular, you would have noticed that specifically for routing, there is already some sort of package and code available. Angular that way, React that way is lightweight. So even a basic feature like routing is not there directly in the package or in the project that you created just now. So in case you are looking for routing, you have to also add this basic package from npmjs.com. So grab the package, install the package, and then you will see some sort of methods and functions and classes will be given to you. So that's one reason React is lightweight, because a basic feature like routing is also not there in the default template that you get with React. So if you need it, install React Router DOM. Now, how do I use React Router DOM in my project? Have a look now. So we can use home, about component, contact like component, which we used earlier. We can use those components and we can study. Have a look now. How do I do this? So the very first thing, I would need a package. Okay, I'll stop this code first. And then I'll need a package. Which package do I need? npm install. I'll need a package which is React Router DOM. And then let's get the latest version at latest. So whichever is the latest version of React Router DOM, let us grab it, install it on or rather inside this project. Let's hit enter. Let's hit enter. Meanwhile, let me show you what lies in the React Router DOM. Go to the browser, observe here, npmjs.com, and search for React Router DOM. Search for this. So when you search, the latest version is 10 days ago. Okay. And then here, there are some code snippets. There are some sort of what you call packages that we keep on using. How do I grab this package? So npm install React Router DOM. This is what we used. The latest version is already installed. That is maybe 7.9.6. And as you can see, this particular package has a dependency, okay, like one dependency. So when this package gets installed, there is also another package which gets installed called as React Router. Okay. So now the thing that we would like to do is design something like this. I already have installed the package. As you can see, go to command prompt, you can see the package is installed already. Installing that package brings one more package, React Router, and maybe React Router brings some more packet. And all in all, installing this one package and library brought something else on my machine. 50 packages were added. So I wanted to add one package, but that one package hierarchically or nested have lot of dependencies. And then downloading one package actually added 50 other packages on my machine. That's one reason NPM module or node modules are basically heavy inside this. So even if it's a hello world kind of a project and simple piece of code, you will notice there is like kilos of code which is added into onto the machine. So there are definitely something like maybe 300 plus MB as of now we must have installed on the machine, or at least something like 10,000, 15,000 different number of JavaScript files are already there on my machine. But then nothing to worry, because this is during development only. Once you are done with the development, there is one thing which is called as packaging. When it is realized and recognized that okay, we don't need all these files, we only need minimum amount of files, and that's exactly where you will see that the final output will be constructed, which is way less and lesser in size. So we have everything else available now. Let's go and try to use Wheat serve one more time. Okay, we are already having this thing here, so we can very well shoot a call and collect the data. Okay, so anyway, this is the basic UI that we created some time back. Go back to the code now. Now, what is it that we would like to do in React Router now? Let me show you. My interest is very simple right now. So there is a question again that we have. Does the NPM package have LTS version? If yes, how to identify them and get them through the CLI? Okay. So we do have what you call certain versions available, but then like I said, instead of you identifying them that I need a LTS version, it is during development what is suggested is we can always go for something which is called as the routine latest versions of a particular package, and then leave the dependencies identification part to the web pack kind of a packaging tools. That way, it helps. So what is it that we are trying to do now? We are trying to do something of this sort. I'll be creating one component like this. So under main JSX, I'll be adding one component. Then on that component, what I would like to do is I would like to have some sort of links like this: home, about, contact. Okay, these link buttons is what I need. Next, I would like to have one ruler like this. Okay, a menu and a ruler. And then I would like to have a kind of, can I just highlight this? I guess yes. I need to have one more layer added over here, which is empty look and feel as of now. And then whenever somebody, okay, loads initially, I would like to load home over here. Whenever somebody clicks on a button, whenever somebody clicks on about. So what I want is on click of home, initially to load home, on click of about, load about, okay, about.jsx over here. Maybe I'll need something more. When somebody clicks on contact, what I would like to do is load contact.jsx here in this region. I'll also say here. Okay. So what happens? There is this area, okay, this area which I have. Can I just push back? No. Okay. Maybe I'll just delete this. So I would like to click on a button and I would like to load these elements based on demand. Whatever their UI is, I would like to load that UI over here in general. So this is something which we would like to achieve. Next, Right now, we are shooting call to. What we are shooting call to is this 5173. So initially, when somebody types in the browser something like this, what happens is I would like to initially load something which is called as home in the UI. But whenever somebody is asking for something like in the URL, when somebody types about, if somebody types about, okay, if somebody types about, what I want is it should automatically load about, which means what will happen if at all somebody, instead of clicking on these buttons, directly types in the browser that hash about slash contact hash contact. I would like to load the respective UI programmatically, which means somewhere in a React application, I would like to listen what user may have typed in the browser. And the next thing is sometimes if user clicks on these buttons, I would like to convey the upper URL as well, URL area as well. And it's okay, change the URL based on what clicked. Okay, based on what clicked. So there is a two-way kind of a communication I am interested in right now. A communication from the address bar to the React project or React, and from a React when click happens to a address bar. So what you type in address bar should reflect in React, and what you click in React should reflect into the UI. That is exactly what we are looking for right now. And to do all of that, what you need is who's going to come help me? Somebody is going to come help me. That is a package called as React Router DOM. This is the package which will help us in general. This is the package which will help us in general. Now, let us try to understand how can we have this package used all in all. The very first thing is I would like to have these links created in the first place. I would like to have these links created in the first place. How do I do that? Have a look. And then I'll need this area which I had mentioned earlier. This particular area is what I'm looking for. When I have this particular area, then definitely what will happen is then we'll be able to what you call like then we'll be able to load the respective content whenever need comes up. Okay, so let's see what exactly and how exactly we can use this. Go to the code now. I'll be calling the link buttons and everything that we have. So to load every other component, I'll have this main look and feel called as dashboard. Okay. So this main look and feel, I will keep on calling it as a dashboard. And this dashboard is going to be part of main JSX file. Okay. This dashboard is going to be part of main JSX file. Now let's see what happens here. Go to the code. Let's add over here src. There is already home, but I'll be calling it as home and dash v1. Just keep it simple, v1. Maybe v2 because v1 is already there. Okay, here we go. So let's add now few of the components. Let's add dashboard.jsx. Okay, there is going to be ffc, all functional components, nothing else. Dashboard. Okay, there we go. Under this, I am interested in showcasing some look and feel. Okay, so let's say dashboard, h1 dashboard, nothing else. Then what I need is leave this welcome to and so and so. I am interested in link buttons. I am interested in link buttons. And before that, what is it that my interest is in? Create a home.jsx, write down ffc, a very short simple code, home, and here simply write down, okay, something like home page, and maybe over here h1, something like welcome home, nothing else. Maybe welcome home. I guess this is simple. Welcome home. Now, just like home JSX file, copy paste, create about JSX. Write down over here about, and write down about us. Okay, this is just a simple page, blank page. I mean, just to decorate the rest of the project, I'll have this simple UI snippets constructed. What next? Contact.jsx. Let us prepare ffc contact and let us revert. Okay, maybe contact us. You can have rest of the UI added based on the need. Now pay attention. There's a simple home UI, simple about UI, and simple contact UI. I would like to navigate between these pages using dashboard. So dashboard is that container. Okay. Dashboard is this container, and then we'll just keep on moving between these components. Okay. Whenever user keeps on clicking on these buttons, when user clicks on home, home, when user clicks on about, and when the user clicks on contact, the contact UI will be loaded. So I just wanted to load within this area, which is highlighted right now. I would like to load within this area the rest of the content of home, about, and contact. How do I do that? Here we go. So under dashboard, let us first of all create link buttons. Under dashboard, let us create first of all link buttons. How do I create a link button? Had it been a routine HTML, I would have created simply ahref. But the ahref is of no use over here. A very simple logic I'll tell you. I would like to click on a button, which is link button, but at the same time, what I also want to do is I also want to programmatically convey to a browser that, this is the URL which we are navigating to. And plus, the entire page should not refresh. The content should be loaded within the page itself. Means right now we are looking for some menu here where my cursor is blinking right now. And after user clicks on a button, I would like to load that menu item which is clicked, a respective component to be loaded in the dashboard itself programmatically. And to do so, we have a very nice option. Just plan to add something like this. Under this dashboard, let's add HR. Let's also add one more HR, just a provision. And under these two HR lines, instead of adding ahref, we'll be using link. We'll be using link. So link is that component which basically is going to go and generate that ahref kind of a thing. We will not write ahref by ourselves. Link component eventually is responsible for showing the UI, navigating to the respective component. But at the same time, you will notice that it also has to go and convey to a browser that I change, you also change the URL. Link to slash. Okay. So there are three links that are created just now over here. Link to slash, which means whenever somebody clicks on a button called home, text called home, what happens is user will be navigating to slash, which means in the address bar, what I would say is slash. If user clicks on about as a text, maybe about us as a text. So what will happen? We will go and try to see in the URL about. If I say contact, I would say slash contact over here. Maybe I can simply say slash and slash home over here. Okay. Now see it here. This is just a link button. To add a space, there is no automatic spacing. In case you want to add a space, you have to basically add it more like a literal over here. Done now. There is a bar which is decoration bar, and so that we can separate the link. Moreover, now what happens is between these two areas now, what I want to do is I really am interested in load a respective component here. Okay, load respective component here as a child. And what happens whenever we went for something like parent and child kind of a relationship, like employees have employee, okay, yesterday and today as well. So you need to understand one thing. It is like dashboard has something. So dashboard has link. This produces link button. But then within this area, which I'm highlighting right now, I am interested in loading. Loading what? When somebody clicks on about button, load about over here. When somebody clicks on contact button, I would like to load contact over here. When somebody clicks on home again, I would like to load home itself. But whenever somebody does not click anything and first time we view this, I am interested in showcasing home again over here. How do I do that? So for that matter, within this area, in case we want to load the content, this area where the roots and components get loaded, we call it as, this area is actually called as routes. So within this area that you see highlighted, line number 13 to 15, within this highlighted area, I would like to load some components. Okay, so I should rather say it over here. Okay, load the respective components here in this area. Now, how do I know which component to load? and what got clicked. So there is a linking between this component and this component internally, because both of them, they are actually coming from React Router DOM, as you can see. So there is automatically linked. Now have a look here. How do I know which component to load when something gets clicked? You can have a listing over here and you can convey, I would like to. Okay, you can convey route. You can convey route. A route is also added at the top. You can convey when somebody is asking for slash home, means either directly or indirectly. I would like to load an element. I would like to load an element, and that element is, now I'm going to go and say, okay, load home here. Load home here. Where is home coming from? Home is coming from a file called as dot slash home. So I am saying right now, when somebody is asking for home, let us showcase home component in this region. It's like a switch case. It is literally like a switch case statement. So switch to home, then load this particular home component. Okay. Next, I may say, type here, type here. When somebody says home, when somebody says about, when somebody says contact, please load about component. When somebody types and asks contact, load contact. Okay. And there can be a scenario wherein I may have a situation, something like when somebody does not type anything, I mean, wrong typing happens in the URL address bar. I would like to have that default case as well handled, that what if user types something wrong, like a catch block. So in that case, what you can do, you can also prepare one more component over here. Let's say not found.jsx. We can write ffc, load here, not found, and we can just write down over here itself something like h1. Okay, maybe you can simply say resource not found, resource not found. This can be a message, a general message to the end user. And how do I use this now? Go to dashboard. So if somebody types in the browser or clicks on this link, go to home, means load home. Whenever somebody types something like slash about or clicks on this link, go to about. Whenever somebody types this link or clicks on this link or types in the browser address bar, contact, load this contact. But what if anything else is typed by the user? Then we have option star. Anything else user types, anything but these three, then please take user to not found component. So we'll just have like a final catch block is what is added like that. A default case or fallback mechanism. But hold on. When you run the application, there is nothing mentioned as slash. When first time we run the application, you all have seen what was there in the browser. You must have seen there is nothing added over here in the what you call as address bar. It is by default slash, nothing else. So the thing is, what will happen when I run the application with slash? So you can also convey that as a first case. When this is there, you can also convey when somebody says slash, please load home component, which means when somebody clicks on home, anyway load home. But whenever nothing is mentioned, then please go ahead and load home. And then maybe we would like to see slashes are typically counted. Slashes are counted. So what will happen, even if I click on home, about and contact, sometimes what will happen is only home will get loaded. So maybe I need to have a mapping over here exactly when the URL matches to or a call matches to slash home, then only this. Exactly when about as a URL and address URL and this text matches to, then only about. So you also have one more thing. You may write down something which is called as exact. Okay. So in case somebody is using a previous version of React Router DOM, we may end up using exact as a word just to ensure that so-called, the exact kind of a mapping of a path is basically followed. Let us see if they have resolved this in this version. So we can just remove exact and see if it is working. Now hold on. After we have this dashboard, after we have this mechanism wherein either of these routes will be loaded based on either a click or based on what user types. Keeping that aside, okay, how would my dashboard component know what user has typed in the browser? Because dashboard is something which is going to be shown inside main JSX like this. And then main JSX is actually added into div id equal to root, which is also part of that HTML page, as you know. Next, if it is added till here, above that there is a body, above that there is a HTML, above this there is a document, above this there is a window, and window has a complete control over your address bar. So the point is, if somebody types something in the address bar, window object will get to know first what user typed. Window can convey to document, document can convey to markup, markup can convey to body, body can convey to div, div can further, get to know to somebody called as, let's say, main, main to dashboard, and dashboard to this switch case statement, literally like a switch case, like what user type, load that component. The concern is, who is going to go and grab the detail from window? Who is going to go and grab those details of address and pass it on to routes so that a respective element can be showcased to the end user? So for all of this, you have a very amazing technique. What you do is you load a dashboard over here, but then there is one more wrapper that we have. That wrapper element's job is to communicate on your routing behalf, React Router DOM's behalf, ultimately routing packages behalf, communicate with the window object and collect what user has typed in the address bar, or if internal navigation happens, convey to the address bar what change should be conveyed to the address bar. Like, okay, address bar URL should also change. And how do I handle that? You will have to use over here one wrapper element, very well known as browser router as an element. Okay, so browser router is the what you call as wrapper, and under that wrapper, I will be using dashboard now. Under that wrapper, I will be using dashboard now over here like this. Okay, so I'll just try to highlight this. Okay, this is it. So we have a browser router, and under the browser router via hierarchy, we have a dashboard. Means what? If some internal navigation happens in a dashboard, a browser router is the one who will convey to the browser, or which will convey to the browser, change the address in the URL. And then if at all somebody types in the browser, so browser router will get to know dashboard like what changed. So accordingly, a respective navigation will happen. Now please pay attention what happens in the bar here. Okay, refresh. So there is an error, a reference error about. Okay, so the problem is I just typed every other time, but then I have only imported home here. There's a reference to about and reference to contact and reference to not found also required. So let us go and load about, control space, enter, control space, enter. And what you see is all components are now imported. And now see to it what we have here. Can you see something? There is a no URL over here, as you can see. There is no URL over here in the what you call as upper side. And now by default what is shown to me is welcome home. And now what happens is if I click on about us gets loaded. Look at the URL now. It's about. Click on contact, a navigation to contact. Upper side you can see slash contact. What will happen if I click on home now? See, it was by default slash. That is the reason we could see nothing here. But if I type home now, you can see home written over here, as you can see. And what's happening in the application, what is getting manipulated, what is getting changed. Look at the beautiful thing about React. Have a look, right click, inspect. This is the area where the contents are supposed to be loaded. Okay, this HR area. Click here. See what changes when I click on a button. Only a respective area via virtual DOM, which is supposed to change, will only change. And then you will see little bit of flicker over here. This will show you, okay, something changes. See, if I click on button like about, what happens over here? Something flickers. See, this changed. Click here. And if I click on button, you can see only the specific things changes because of React router, React or virtual DOM concept. Only a respective thing changes. The rest of the thing is as good as it is constant, if you see. Only respective contents are updated, if you can see. Okay. So this is something which is basically React's what you call expertise. That React does this thing without affecting the rest of the UI. What React does is it updates the respective area only. Now the next thing is what will happen if user goes and types something. Of course, yes, we can actually have maybe multiple dashboards like this, component within a component and so and so. The main outer side will be one, and we can actually have any kind of a hierarchy the way we want it. Now the thing is, just like I typed over here, I mean, instead of typing, I would say I clicked, as the reason correct wording is there. Suppose what will happen if somebody types over in the browser something like, anything over here. So if user has typed in the browser anything, then definitely this is not a route that we have defined. So if somebody types in the browser, means there is an entire refresh we are asking for. We are going to want hit enter now. It's as good as we are calling React with a specific kind of a component. So it's going to be a complete refresh. If I hit enter from window to document, document to your what you call as div id route to your browser router to routes, and routes to a respective route has to be loaded. So here I'm typing something wrong right now. And if I hit enter, look what happens. Everything refreshes, and what you see on a console is resource not found, because that resource does not exist. So if user basically has put up something wrong in the address bar, browser router will simply take it, and browser router will pass it on to routes, and route will anyway will convey that sorry, this component does not exist. And then what will happen is resource not found kind of a component is loaded into the UI. As you can see, a very simple navigation between the code content. Okay. Then the next thing is, can we eventually programmatically navigate from A component to B component? Can we programmatically navigate from A component to B component that way? So there is going to be one hook that we'll be discussing next, which is going to be use history hook. Then sometimes it happens that I will only make the what you call the arrangements. But then the discussion will continue, in the next session. But then I just wanted to have a decoration over here like this. Pay attention. What if there is a component called as secure.jsx, and here secure kind of a component I'll have, and let us say h1, and this is very secure component, okay, to be made available, okay, upon login only, okay, upon login only. And this secure component I'll try to import here, and I'll just have a link maintained just like this. Okay. I'll just have a link maintained this way. I'll call go to secure, and then here I'll have a route copied, load a component called as secure. Okay, and see what happens after we have loaded secure. You can see it here itself that since it's available, you can click on a button, and then just like home, about, and contact is made available, you can also say secure also comes down directly. The thing is, I would like to navigate to the secure kind of a component only and only when user has logged in. When user basically has a correct credentials, then only I would like to navigate from A component to B component. So the concern is, how do I do this? Because I want a restricted navigation, role-based navigation, login-based navigation into the application. So how do I basically do this in case of React? And that's exactly where we are going to want to understand how can we protect our routes based on some sort of conditions. And that's exactly what we are going to want to discuss in the next session. Okay. So it's Sunday. I won't take too long to finish the session. I hope you enjoyed the session. If there are concerns, questions, queries, feel free to put it. I already have answered, I guess, the account name Lucifer. Then I have answered, I guess, Abhijit. Om and Sushant, I guess I have answered your questions. If there is anything else, feel free to put it. Otherwise, we are good to close today, bit early, and enjoy your rest of the evening. Okay. I hope you are able to understand this, and we are good to close, everyone. Bit early today, and we can continue. Yeah. We'll be using use history tomorrow, and we will also be seeing a kind of protected routes, a route to be made available after login only. That thing will be covered tomorrow. Normally what happens is the default route when we run the application, you can see the default route, default application is something like slash. Okay. So what happens is slash is something which is slash is something which is by default called. So unless and until, see, otherwise what will happen initially if I don't do this, a route for slash, let's say comment this, okay, and if I refresh this, come on, ha, I did not do this. So if I call, what you end up getting is resource not found. Okay, then I myself may have to go and call, okay, home should be shown, and then the home will come up. So that's the reason we will define a default route which is for slash. Okay. So otherwise user will have to click on a home that way. Because index.html is a startup and slash is a default that comes up. Varad has a question. Could you please cover Redux and Redux Toolkit 2? Yes, I'll be covering Redux and Redux Toolkit 2 towards the end. But in case you are looking for ahead of time kind of a maybe knowledge about it, Varad. So in the webinar series on the YouTube same channel, in the webinar series, just see the last webinar that I covered, not the React sessions, last webinar. There I have covered Redux in detail and depth. That may help you ahead of time. Sadhana has a question. Is browser router need to be imported? Of course, yes. It was imported automatically because I used control space knowingly, unknowingly. So here is a browser router, and the browser router was actually imported from React Router DOM. It's a part of a same package. Okay. So hopefully Saurabh, Varad, Sadhana, and yeah, I guess everyone else, you have your answers. Yeah, so calling default as a slash home, that is definitely those settings can be done whenever we actually host it to a server. That's a default URL that we can route it to. Definitely that can be done, no doubt. Yeah. Oh yes, Saurabh, that is something which is pending from my end. I'll be sharing it, today. No issues. Okay, or max, by 10:30 tomorrow morning. Okay, I guess good to close now. Thank you very much, guys, for attending the session on Sunday even. Okay. So won't take you long, won't keep you long. Thank you and see you tomorrow. Thank you. Good night.